You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Athan Hristodulu.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Athan Hristodulu, and today we are doing our training camp week 1 review. A lot of things have gone on in the last 5 days since we did the preview on Monday. Plenty of things to talk about, so we're just going to dive right into the thick of things. So to begin off the discussion for today, this is some pretty big news for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll start the show here. We have what looks to be a potentially, I don't want to say bad injury, but also potentially, I don't know. It's weird. It may or may not be good. It may or may not be bad. It just kind of depends on how serious the injury actually is. It sounds like the Colts are pretty confident it's not anything serious. I actually just read a tweet before I started recording this from Ian Rappaport saying that there is a potential for surgery being needed, but Carson Wentz on Thursday had his practice ended with a foot injury. The Colts believe it is minor. Again, it may or may not be more severe than they thought. It's just ultimately going to depend on what doctors think, what MRIs I'm assuming are going to show. But he is still being evaluated as we speak. The Colts have been having Jacob Eason take the first team reps. This is their second-year QB that they drafted last year. But overall, this is kind of a tough blow for Indianapolis. This is something that, as a Colts fan, I hope is not serious because I am starting to become more and more excited at the prospect of Wentz leading the team going into this 2021 season. But it is a little bit of a big piece of news coming out of Indianapolis, and something that I really hope isn't going to be severe, because the last thing you need to have is an injury that's going to keep Carson Wentz out for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at the beginning, the early part of the season. They have a pretty tough schedule to start things off. Those first 5 weeks, games against the Titans, the Ravens, Seahawks. So, I mean, definitely don't want to have anybody out going into those first, 3, 4, 5 weeks, especially Carson Wentz at that. Hopefully everything settles out and he's fine. He doesn't need the surgery, but it is something that I guess is a potential and that they're looking at, but they're hoping to avoid and maybe just focus more so on like rehab or something to keep Carson Wentz out of the doctor's office and going under the knife there. But that's probably the biggest lead that I have so far of recent news. Now, another massive piece of news that came out, and this is something that I did not see coming, but it totally makes sense given the situation. Cornerback Xavien Howard. I mean, this guy, if you haven't seen already, I did a top 5 cornerbacks video. He is included in the video. I won't tell you where. Go watch the video, and you'll find out where I have him rated. But I mean, this guy is an absolute stud. He has 17 interceptions in the last 2 seasons. He played fully healthy. He had 10 interceptions just this past season. He had 7 in 2018. 2019, he was out with injury, so he only had 1. But I mean, even with that, you include that interception there, you're looking at 18 total interceptions in the last 3 seasons, and 17 of them came from 2 of those 3 seasons. So he's an absolute stud. I think the guy is worth all the money, and I mean, the amount of the players that he goes up against week in and week out and is able to shut things down, force turnovers. I mean, Xavien Howard is an absolute beast at cornerback. Go watch some of his highlights if you have not seen them. But it sounds like he's ready to get himself out of Miami. He announced on Instagram in a lengthy post that he wants to get on out of town. He was voicing his frustrations with how stellar his performance has been versus the contract that he has, the money that he's being given, considering that he is a top 5 cornerback at the position, and he's not even the highest paid cornerback on his own team. And I guess it's not even close. I haven't looked into the numbers of it, but from what he's saying, it sounds like it's not even close. He was also stating that he hasn't asked for a new contract or anything, but it is, it sounds like he's probably just looking for either more guaranteed money to play out the deal he's currently on, whether it's more guaranteed money, a little bit more money, maybe like less incentives or something like that, and more just like, outright pay, signing bonus, whatever it may be. I don't necessarily know what he's actually looking for, but he came out and said he's not looking for a contract extension. It sounds like more guaranteed money. He also said that he didn't really understand the contract that he signed in 2018, which is pretty wild considering I'm assuming he had an agent doing that for him. So I would hope that his agent is really laying everything out and explaining everything in full detail to him, because it sucks if maybe, there was a few provisions in there or like things based off of, performance, which at this point he's probably hit every performance number aside from the year he was hurt when he signed the deal in 2018. But I mean, Xavien Howard is a top 5 cornerback, and some will even argue top 3. And like I said, if you watch my video on top 5 cornerbacks, you'll see where I have him rated on there and see how highly I actually view him. But I mean, the guy is a stud. He's a turnover machine. any team would be lucky to have him. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in him since he came out and announced he would like a trade from the team. I'm very curious to see where he goes. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on what team's going to go after him because cornerback, especially really good cornerbacks, is such a premium position. And, anyone could really benefit from bringing him in, and anyone that has draft capital will go after him, I'm assuming. It sounds like 2 playoff teams at least are very interested in him and are among the pursuing teams. But, I don't really know where this is going to go. The fact that he came out and was so vocal about it puts the Dolphins in a tough spot. If they're not willing to budge on any sort of money, did they make the trade? In my opinion, I say no. Do what you can and give him what he's asking for because it's very hard to find really good cornerbacks, especially at his level, that can produce the type of turnovers he has done in the last 2 seasons. He was completely healthy. Xavien Howard will be a significant loss to this Dolphins team. He is a huge part of that Dolphins defense, and for them to just let him go and trade him away for capital, in my opinion, would be a very big mistake. I think Xavien Howard should stay in Miami. They should be doing whatever they can to keep him there. Give him the money. Give him whatever the hell he's asking for because Xavien Howard's a top 5 cornerback, and it's not too often that you have a top 5 cornerback on your team. There are a lot of teams out there that I'm sure will be willing to give him more than what he's asking for his services if he's going to be even, 2/3 as productive as what he has been for the Miami Dolphins these last few years that he's been playing there. So Miami, figure it out. Give him the money. Bring him back. Don't let him walk. That's all I really got to say about that. Now, this was big news coming out earlier in the week. It was funny because I did this I talked about this in the preview, and then literally a couple hours after my preview video went up, it was old news because Aaron Rodgers is officially back with the Green Bay Packers. This is a pretty big deal considering the tumultuous offseason that these two between him and the Packers have had. It sounds like a deal has been renegotiated with the Packers. It's all signed and done at this point. His 2023 year is completely voided. A provision was given to him that at the end of this season, he could reevaluate and seek out a trade from the team. I believe if they trade him after the June 1st, 2022 mark, they're going to be on hit for about $26.8 million, I think is what the cap number was, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head there. But it sounds like the Packers are in a position where they've got him locked in for at least another year. It gives Jordan Love another year of opportunity to, learn behind somebody who is one of the best at the position to have ever taken a step on the football field. Rodgers seems to be a little bit happier because they've gotten rid of a lot of provisions and things like that. It sounds like Aaron Rodgers is guaranteed a lot more money in his contract now with the reworked deal that they've come across. On top of that, Aaron Rodgers, it sounds like, is probably going to get a little bit more say in some of the things going on for the team. One of the big examples of that is the Randall Cobb situation with him being brought back. They made a trade with the Texans, 6th-round pick. Randall Cobb, 30 years old, but some of his best seasons coming from when he was with Rodgers. In that big press conference that Rodgers had, he voiced a lot of frustrations about players being let go. He mentioned a lot of names of players that he felt weren't treated properly as they were let go or weren't given offers worthy of what they were to the team. Julius Peppers was a big one. They let him go after a 7.5 sack season, and then he went on to go back to the Panthers and had 11.5 sacks the next year. And apparently he wasn't offered a very good deal to come back after he was already fairly productive in Green Bay that year. So it sounds like a lot went into this whole thing. It looks like both teams, in a sense, have worked stuff out. In my opinion, do I think that this whole situation could have been avoided? Probably if, the sides were more willing to listen. Things got very ugly, and it's unfortunate it did. But, I think both sides went out here. It sounds like Green Bay wasn't necessarily ready to move on and give the reins to Jordan Love. And I know Aaron Rodgers at heart probably wants to stay in Green Bay the rest of his life and, be a Packer for life kind of guy. So Rodgers gets the opportunity to sit back after having all these frustrations aired out, and, everyone kind of knows what's going on at this point. There's no secrets anymore. He gets the opportunity to have his voice heard, see if any positive changes are made, see if, what he thinks is right for the team is actually right for the team. Green Bay also gets the opportunity to sit back and, keep their first-round draft pick from last year under the wing of an MVP, of a Hall of Fame quarterback at this point, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. So I think everyone kind of wins here. Does it add a little bit of weird and awkward tension? Sure. But overall, I think if, the additions that Rodgers is looking for get added. The Packers get the extra year that they were looking for at least, and this team goes back to the winning ways, 13-3 the last few years, consecutive NFC championships if they can get over the hump. I have a feeling that all things aside, things could potentially be looking like Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay for the foreseeable future, and I'm thinking maybe even beyond next year. If the team bottoms out, though, I'm totally wrong on this, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be wearing another uniform next year because I don't see if they don't make the playoffs or don't win the NFC North division, I don't see this marriage lasting beyond this following year. On the topic of quarterback news, we will continue on with now Dak Prescott. This is another big story that kind of came out, and I don't want to say it's a big story, I guess, but a more important story considering the mega deal that Dak Prescott just got offered this past season. He sustained what Mike McCarthy cited as a fatigue injury this past Wednesday during practice. An MRI showed that Prescott was dealing with a shoulder strain. And this is a quote directly from Prescott himself. "I felt some soreness when making certain throws today, and I really just decided not to push things too far. Better to be cautious and smart about it." Tough, especially because he's coming back from, the big ankle injury and all that stuff. He's still working on rehabbing that, along with now focusing on rehabbing his shoulder. Shoulder strain, better it be that than anything else, like a torn rotator cuff or even just a slight partial tear to something like that in the shoulder. Better it be just a strain, a fatigue type of injury, and, he'll just take some time to have to rehab that along with the ankle. And hopefully he can return to form in the next few days. It sounds like from what McCarthy was saying, Prescott's not going to be participating in any throwing, but he will be participating in like walkthroughs and non-contact work with the team. But he's just not going to be throwing the football, at least for the foreseeable future, for these next few days. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't expect this to linger very far into the offseason program, or rather the training camp program that they're in right now, especially with the way they're talking it down. It doesn't sound like it's anything crazy. It sounds like a pretty simple, this just kind of happened. He's going to be okay. No stress, no worries. He'll be good in a few days and he'll be back doing his thing. Hopefully it all works out, because the last thing you want to see is Dak Prescott sitting out, a few games because of the shoulder injury after having an issue with the ankle last year, obviously being out the whole year, and the whole contract situation. If Dak Prescott's missing any time due to injury, this is going to cause a serious rift, in my opinion, with the Cowboys organization, fans, and how people are going to see things around the league. Outside of injuries, quarterback situations, stuff like that, for the moment, we'll talk about, this is some pretty big news, because it really focuses in on players that are young, retiring due to injuries, things like that. This is something that we've seen a lot of the last few years in the NFL with, Andrew Luck, Luke Kuechly, a lot of really young players deciding to step away from the game, prioritizing their health, whether it's mental or physical, over the game itself. Jake Butt, former tight end of the Denver Broncos, who just a month ago signed a deal with the Chicago Bears to be a tight end over there, is announcing his retirement. I was not aware of this until I did the research and actually found like his injury history. The dude's only 26 years old, and he's suffered 3 ACL tears at this point. And when I hear something like that, it kind of throws me back to the whole Andrew Luck situation when he was announcing his retirement and explaining things. I mean, he even said it himself, and this is a direct quote from him: "Football gave me some of the best times of my life. Ironically, it also gave me some of the toughest times, which turned out to be the most important." And I'm assuming just mentally, the gruel ACL injuries, while, science has progressed the time frame on coming back, the rehab is still gruesome. It's tough getting that knee working again. And, something like that where, 3 times you have to come back from the same rehab and get yourself back into the same mindset of being able to trust that leg again. And I mean, 3 injuries into an ACL throughout his very young career. I mean, the dude, again, is only 26 years old. I can understand and respect why he decided to walk away, why he's coming out and being honest and saying, I just have no passion. He doesn't want to waste a spot in the Chicago Bears. He's walking away from a lot of money, even if it's not a massive contract like some of the highest paid players in the league is. He's still walking away from a lot of money. It's really unfortunate that this is how things have turned out for him, because he was a very, promising star when he was over at Michigan. Dude was awesome, and, it sucks that this is how things have turned out for him, because, I remember watching him, especially when he got drafted by the Broncos. I was like, man, dude, this guy's going to be a stud. This is great for Denver. They need a tight end. But here we are now, only 4 years into his career, announcing his retirement. Hats off to him for being able to do something like that, to just walk away from a game he's played probably his entire life. Much respect to you, Jake. But it's unfortunate. But I mean, many of other players, with higher caliber careers, whatever you want to say about it, have walked away for literally the same issues. And, I totally understand it. And I hope that anyone that sees that does not call him a quitter or anything like that. I mean, at this point, in this stage, and what we've been seeing recently in the news about mental health in sports, and you look at the Simone Biles thing with the Olympics, mental health priority, especially in sports, is something that is not talked about enough, and it needs to continue to be talked about more, and it needs to be brought to the forefront more, and people should be okay with walking away, even when the spotlight is on as bright as the Olympics, and it not be an issue, because I've seen what some of the people are saying on the internet, and it is not okay. Mental health is not a joke, and especially when superstar athletes are in a position where, all eyes are on them, and they're trying to perform, whether it's representing a team or their entire country. Sometimes that spotlight shines a little too bright and the weight on their shoulders gets a little bit too heavy, and nobody should be criticizing them for stepping away or stepping back and saying, this is a bit too much for me. So that's all I have to say on all that. There's my little rant for that piece there. Going back to more quarterback news, we'll discuss this. This is just a brief little thing here. Texans QB Deshaun Watson still waiting for a trade. The news broke earlier this past week on, was it Sunday or Monday? I think it was Monday was when it came out. Obviously, still has no intentions on playing for the team. The Texans are now willing to listen to conversations as far as bringing in trade offers and things like that after they spent the entire offseason not willing to hear anything, literally not answering the phone, or if teams are calling about it, just hanging up and leaving it at that. They are finally willing to make a trade. Nothing has gone through yet. Everyone's kind of just sitting there waiting to see what the Texans are going to do. Deshaun Watson's he's going to warrant two to three number one picks, first round picks, and then some, most likely. If it's going to be 2 first round picks, it's going to be that and like a good player or 2 or promising player or 2, something like that. But I mean, the haul for him is going to be massive. Hopefully the Texans get it right, because they traded away DeAndre Hopkins for like a bag of beans and some potatoes, but no trade yet. And the weird thing is that Watson has been doing safety for the scout team on the Texans. I've been reading, the posts on Twitter and Instagram and what people have to say about that. I think that's rather bizarre. He's even willing to do that. I know that he's been showing up and trying to be as professional as possible. I'm very curious as to if the Texans and him agree to just have him do that, because it's something for him to do while he's not throwing and risking injuring his shoulder or anything like that, a la Dak Prescott and what's going on with him right now. But very weird. I don't know why that would be going on, other than the fact that they agreed, hey, do this. I don't think someone was just like, yo, Deshaun, get in there and start doing scout team safety. Like, I feel like that would just exasperate the issues they already have. So I think it was probably something they agreed upon and something Watson was willing to do. So he's, still moving around and not just hanging out doing nothing during the training camp time that they have right now. But real weird situation on there. Hopefully Watson gets out of there, because the drama with all that is just, it's starting to get old. And, I'm glad to see something like Aaron Rodgers' situation is finally done and settled. I would love to see the same for Deshaun Watson get to be done and settled. So, he can move on from the Houston Texans and play somewhere that hopefully he wants to be at for the next, however many years he's playing, should everything go well for him legally. Now, pivoting over to somebody who's dealing with a return from a pretty severe injury last season, and somebody I hope who comes back and returns to form, because I was a very big fan of his play style when he was over killing it in the league, Saquon Barkley. He's been working out with trainers. From the reports, it sounds like the dude is looking really good. That's exciting to hear. He's cutting, he's running routes, he's catching passes, the whole nine, running full sprints. From what it sounds like, things are looking really good. He's been really mum on where he's supposed to be at and if he's going to be participating in anything throughout the entire offseason. A lot of we'll see type stuff, whether that's the Giants telling him to do that, whether that's just him personally not trying to get people's hopes up, whether he's trying to take it slow, the team's trying to take it slow, whoever it may be. It's exciting to see that he's out there, he's moving, because a healthy Saquon Barkley, when he's rolling, is one of the best, if not the best running back in the league. I still remember how he was killing it his rookie season, the year after. I mean, hopefully he comes back to form and he's good to go. No issues. He can trust his leg. He can get back to moving the way he used to do, because the Giants, man, that whole team right now, the way they are set up, if Saquon Barkley can come back, alleviate some of the pressure off Daniel Jones, who has an entirely new receiving core of awesome players to throw the football to now, and what looks to be a revamped defense, the Giants are a solid team. They have a lot going for them, but I think Saquon Barkley being in that backfield will only elevate their chances at competing in the NFC East, which, in my opinion, Washington football team's looking good now. Giants are looking good now. Everything works out with Dallas with the revamped defense and Dak Prescott. They're looking good now. Should be another competitive year for the NFC East. And not to, toss you Eagles fans aside, but, I think you guys have the most question marks out of every other team in the division right now, but should be a very competitive division nonetheless. And I think Saquon Barkley would be a massive addition to that Giants team and helping that offense go beyond the, I think it was like 17 points a game average they had last season because they had a great defense. The offense just could not get the ball rolling. So Saquon Barkley will only help that. So hopefully all that works out for them. Now, in the quarterback battle news, vets versus the rookies, one I want to highlight that I've been watching a little bit closer than the others because I do live in Massachusetts, so I constantly hear the Patriots news in my ear 24/7 when I'm in my car listening to sports talk. It sounds like the Cam and Mac Jones competition is heating up. Bill Belichick himself did not even dismiss the fact that there is a quarterback competition going on right now. It was brought up to him, and he didn't dismiss it or anything like that on Tuesday. So it sounds like these two guys are locked in, ready to battle, and I'm here for it. I'm really excited to see how this goes. It sounds like there's some really positive reviews coming out for Cam Newton, and we all saw what happened to him last season and the year he had. Another year under the system, having a full training camp and offseason to be with the Patriots, I think is only going to benefit him. He's another year removed from all those surgeries, so hopefully his arm's feeling better. He's, trusting it more. He has a lot of things going his way, a lot of new weapons coming in. It was noted, in practice, Newton was able to land back-to-back touchdowns to Hunter Henry, the newly signed tight end. So it sounds like Newton's looking really good. There's been a lot of praise coming out about Mac Jones as well. Some people even going as far to say that he is like the ideal quarterback. That's like players' words, not mine or not pundits, but like coming from other players saying that. So it sounds like the battle's heating up. I don't have images for the left-hand side here because I noticed this as I was getting ready to record, and I was like, you know what, I can just mention it here since we're on the topic talking about quarterbacks. But it does sound like there is some competition heating up also in Chicago for the Bears. Andy Dalton and Justin Fields having at it, going back-to-back here, seeing what they can get going up and stirring up over there in Chicago, which is really exciting because I'm all for quarterback battles, but especially for Justin Fields being the rookie and Andy Dalton being a guy who was very solid in Cincinnati, who, in my opinion, never had a absolute stellar team built around him. He had a good team, but I don't think that team was ever really built to be a true Super Bowl contender. They were just a strong playoff team when they were making it to the playoffs year in and year out. That's exciting to see for Andy Dalton. A lot of people were laughing at the Bears as he was brought in, being like, oh, that's your QB1. And obviously then the Bears being applauded for drafting Justin Fields, which great for them. They got the future. But, if Andy Dalton's playing well and he's giving Justin Fields a run for his money, it's nice to see that Andy Dalton's getting a little spotlight here to shine. He's got Allen Robinson over there, Tariq Cohen. There's some solid players over there in Chicago. So interesting to see what's going to happen with these vets versus rookie QB battles. I highlighted the Cam versus Mac one on Monday. And you know what? Let's highlight the Bears one with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Let's see how it works out between those two guys, because that was something that wasn't even on my radar, forgetting completely that Andy Dalton was even in Chicago, and that's on me, but exciting to see how that's going to work out for them. Now, the last thing, which doesn't really have to do with training camp news, but it ties into the NFL, and I've been seeing people talk about it all over the internet, and I'm definitely curious to see if anyone who listens to this podcast plays the game itself. Madden 22 is coming out in a few weeks here. It's training camp time, so Madden's just about a month away. A lot of hype going on for the game and whatnot every single year. And a yearly thing they do is their Madden 99 club, where they show, that they list all the positions' top players, like top 10 players, but they release the 99 club along the way, which is the top 99 overall players in the game. There's only 5 this year. We have Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Ramsey, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, and then Aaron Donald as the 599 overall players. Now, I will go ahead and say that I agree with Donald, Kelce, Adams, and even Ramsey. Patrick Mahomes, he is also a 99. Don't get me wrong, but Aaron Rodgers had the probably arguably second best or third best season by a quarterback in NFL history last year, and how they're not rating Aaron Rodgers as the top guy in this game, and like even just giving Mahomes a 99 as well, or a 98, and sitting Rodgers on top of that. Like I think he's the third best quarterback rated in the game. And I'm not going to like get into like all this nonsense because it is a little bit ridiculous and it is just ratings, but dude, Aaron Rodgers was so good last year, playing with a chip on his shoulder, and it sounds like he's still going to have one going into this year. And if he's getting in weapons that he wants to play with, I can only imagine he's going to have just as good or a better of year, or somewhere within that same realm, still in the thick of the MVP conversation like he usually is. I don't question anyone that's on this list aside from why Aaron Rodgers isn't on it or is the quarterback that's on it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, again, I love him. I love Aaron Rodgers. And for those people that are arguing that, Tom Brady should be on there as well, fair enough, argue away. But dude, Aaron Rodgers is literally the MVP and was just the best quarterback in the league last year. Like, let's be real here. Please let me know in the comment section what you guys think about that. But that'll be it for the show today. We'll have another preview for week 2 coming up in a couple of days here. We'll do that on Monday as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about some of the stories going on, who you think is going to win, quarterback battles, positional battles for teams, about any important stuff you think I might have missed that you want me to take a closer look at as I get into my preview for week 2. Talk about the 99 Club if you're a Madden player, if you love watching all that stuff roll out before the game comes out and all that whatnot. Like, comment, share, sub, all the goods. But that is all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you all for hanging out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time with another video. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.